Before my kids were born, I tried to take up surfing. I took a number of lessons, eventually bought a longboard and a wetsuit, and would occasionally get out there when the waves weren't huge. But truth be told, 3 young kids makes it hard to set aside time these days, so my board, it's taking on dust. The good thing is every year at our beach baptism, I've got a wetsuit to wear. No freezing in the water for me. I can stay in all day, toasty as can be. Well, that's what came to mind at the end of Acts 27. The ship Paul was traveling on ran aground, and the centurion told them to swim for it. Verse 44 tells us the rest were to get there on planks or on other pieces of the ship. In this way, everyone reached land safely. They got on planks and on boards, and they rode the waves to land. Jesus walked on the waves, but these guys were surfing. Luke tells us once safely on shore, we found out that the island was called Malta. The islanders showed us unusual kindness. They built a fire and welcomed us all because it was raining and cold. Malta is roughly the same latitude as Los Angeles, so the weather is fairly similar. Even in a winter storm, Paul and the other castaways were probably not in danger of hypothermia. Standing on the shore, soaked to the bone with rain coming down without a wetsuit, they weren't comfortable either. As such, the actions of these islanders were particularly noteworthy. Now, I don't know if it's surprising that they would show such compassion for strangers or whether hospitality to strangers was almost a requirement of the time. I'm not sure. Now to everyone's favorite part. Paul gathered a pile of brushwood, and as he put it on the fire, a viper, driven out by the heat, fastened itself on his hand. I wonder how many times Paul muttered under his breath, suffering produces perseverance. Suffering produces perseverance. I don't know about you, but for me, that would have been the last straw. Imprisoned, thrown about on the waves day after day, shipwrecked and standing in the rain? Then snake bit? Are you serious, God? When the islanders saw the snake hanging from his hand, they said to each other, "This man must be a murderer. For though he escaped from the sea, the goddess Justice has not allowed him to live." Isn't it interesting how quickly they were to ascribe the situation to some supernatural cause? In our day, we might say Paul had bad luck. But most in our secular age are unlikely to suggest this was the work of some god or gods. But Paul shook the snake off into the fire and suffered no ill effects. The people expected him to swell up or suddenly fall dead, but after waiting a long time and seeing nothing unusual happen to him, they changed their minds. They said he was a god. We know that the action in these stories is not the work of a god or gods, but the God. Now that said, there is something that these happy pagans can teach us. And that's the expectation that God does act in this world. Things happen in our lives because God is involved and he is in control. But how often do we recognize them as such? I'm not saying that the empty parking spot in the front of the grocery store was an act of God. But if you believe that he exists, loves you, and wants to be in a relationship with you, don't you think he would show it? Not just would he show it, where is he showing it? Where is the living God active and involved in your life? I pray that he would give you eyes to see this week.